I do want to get on. I don't want to take it too long today, and I do want to get on with what I think. This is something I'm so proud of. When I discovered about the CRECHE deceit, I know that nobody else has found it. I discovered it by chance just in 2018, 3 years ago, less than 3 years ago. And it was a light bulb moment. And at that point, I thought, wow, because the point is, for any of us that claim that something happened to Maddie prior to Thursday, I think it's our responsibility to explain how they got away with it. Because if you can't explain how they got away with it, then it's really not good to well, I did it for several years, but it's really not, you really should. I feel responsible, and I've found what I believe is the answer. So I will just answer Little Salty's question here. Oh no, I think I don't want to keep it going too long. And this is a kind of a weird one because it's so important to me. As I say, I'm so proud of my accomplishments in this, and I know nobody else has it. Nobody else has done a Who Saw Madeline research, and I feel positive, and I'll tell you why in the middle as to why I'm probably the only one that managed to actually figure out a very, very, very simple technique that Jerry, the McCanns, and Russell O'Brien used to have it appear that Madeline was in the CRECHE during the week. So simple and so cunning. It's a real cunning technique, and I absolutely believe that this is what happened. And I'll tell you why I believe it over and above just the facts that I've seen. Well, I'm going to be honest. Pat and I, we've always got along. We both respect each other, and I mean, crikey, she's a profiler. She knows what she's doing. She goes by evidence. I'm a researcher, so I go by the facts of my research and the conclusions I come to. So that's two different things, really. So, and it doesn't matter who you want to believe. You don't have to believe me. Pat's the professional, believe Pat, or if you question something or whatever, it's up to you. And this is why. This is the research that I can produce to you to show you why after 14 years I have claimed that I believe Madeline died earlier in the week. Not died. Something happened to her. I don't know when she died. So, okay, I'm going to get on now with the CRECHE deceit. I'm not sure. I hope it's not as long. I'll try not to make it too long because it is, but it's important because this is, I want to send this to the Portuguese police. I think it's important for them to, yes, Salty, I'll do that right for you and Little Salty. Yeah, I believe it was the first one I did back in September, I think, of last year, but it's gone now, so I'll redo it. Okay. Yeah, so this is for the PJ. So that's why, and also, I mean, it's very simple for me to say, as I've always said, yes, I didn't see any indication that anybody or any proof that somebody saw Maddie during the week. But that's just my word you're going on. And as long as this may have been, at least now I've got it out there for you to be able to choose for yourself and see for yourself. That's what's important to me. Okay. So, okie dokie. Here we go again. I keep forgetting how to share. I haven't done it for so long. Okay, looks like we're getting there. Golly, and I had it all set up. Oh, but I forgot to turn it on. And I'm sorry I made a mistake in spelling there. I won't highlight it, but I wasn't going to go and change it. So this is going back to how when I first discovered in 2008 that there was a one child in and one child out. If you want to read it, you can read it off the video that I've done. I knew there was something back then in 2008, and only 10 years later did I figure out why and what happened. When I had my light bulb moment. And it was a long thread. We were discussing for a long time, but you can see how the CRECHE records were so difficult to analyze and scrutinize. So I first put together this little graphic, which very pretty and kind of helped, but then I decided I needed to do the newer and more detailed compilation, which looked like this. And I wasn't sure if it would help until one day, during a post, I had a light bulb moment. And, okay, I'm going to read my light bulb moment to you. Tuesday morning was mini tennis. Both Maddie and Ella were signed in, but even though we're told that Russell walked with Jez and Jerry to pick up the children at lunchtime, only one child was signed out. Russell did not sign the register. Could it have been Russell's daughter in the CRECHE and Jerry signed? Hence the nannies would have thought that he was the little girl with the blonde hairs, daddy, later thinking it was Maddie, but may have actually been Ella. Tuesday afternoon, Jerry signed the register at 2:30, but Catriona filled in for Russell's daughter. Now, Maddie was not signed out on Tuesday afternoon, but Russell signed his daughter out. One child was signed in and only one child was signed out. Interesting again to note the PJ analysis for this CRECHE day is also missing. The anomalies recognized but not suitable to release in the files. And this is where you can see here, they both arrived in the morning and in the afternoon. Now this is after a walk with Jez going to the CRECHE. So Russell was there, but he didn't sign. And yet when it came to the end of the day, Russell signed, but Jerry didn't. So the analysis of the CRECHE registered, dated the 1st of May, is missing. Kind of important, held back. So I continued. I will leave it at that point for now, but please note, although I have recognized the possibility that Russell's daughter may have been mistaken for Maddie, I've not gone through the actual timeline possible explanation until now, and I'm even more convinced that it's a very strong likelihood. We are here to discuss, and all I'm asking is to consider the possibility that it may have been achieved this way rather than disregard it. Takes a lot of thought, and I know many don't have the time or inclination and motivation to go into understanding the detail that I've explained as a possibility above. But for those that do, I welcome your thoughts. Thank you. It was very new to me, but it does seem to fit into place as I was putting it together above. ETA. Because this possible explanation was achieved as I was writing the post, I haven't added Wednesday and Thursday yet, so don't know if there be a possibility of explanation for those days. This is because it suddenly occurred to me on the Tuesday what had happened. As I mention a lot, I never know what I will find as I do my research. I don't have a theory and make it work. I just look at the information and try to make sense of it with no idea what I will find. In this case, I'm quite taken aback how it could make sense. So you can see, I don't say, oh, I think this is how they do it. Let's see if all the information fits. I didn't even think that way. I look at the information and then all of a sudden have a light bulb moment as how it does fit. I was quite shocked that it took me 8 years to actually find it. So only 3 years ago, that's kind of... So looking at the new graphic, I realized that usually, not all the time, but, you know, it didn't need to be exact because the CRECHE register may have been out in the corridor where they signed it or didn't sign it, or Kat signed it or whatever. Usually Jerry and or Kate arrived at the same time to drop the children off or picked up, regardless of different activities. This was usually when one child was signed in, but the other child was signed out. So you can see here, 2:30, Jerry signs Madeline in, and 2:30, Kat signs Russell O'Brien, his daughter, in. And yet we know he was there because he walked there with Jez Wilkins and Jerry. So you can see how the CRECHE records are not exact. Or it was just that Russell O'Brien just didn't sign because Jerry was signing, and you'll see why in a minute. And there's another analysis missing for that day. Oh, that was the one from before. So then I looked at Wednesday when there was no tennis. So because there was no tennis, timings were different. We're told that McCANNS did not go to breakfast during the week. The twins were dropped off earlier at 9:10. Usually they were dropped off at, I think, about 9:30, 9:20, 9:30. And then Jerry, because Kate was supposedly playing tennis, Jerry would then take Madeline over to the kids club, which was 10 minutes away, and she'd be dropped off 10 minutes later, which was the time it took to walk there. But on Wednesday, I noticed something different, that the twins were dropped off at 9:10, but it took 20 minutes before Madeline was dropped off. So I wondered, what was he doing in that 20 minutes? And then I remembered that Diane Webster, in one of her statements, had mentioned seeing them, but doesn't remember really much about it. Just, she doesn't recall them sitting down and eating breakfast, but she does remember seeing them on the Wednesday. And this is where the thing, she's just not clear. I think they just finished their breakfast or something. Again, I'm not clear, but she seems to have seen them, which started to make me think. Now, Russell was also at breakfast and curiously dropped off his daughter at the same time. So was it that they dropped off the twins, then they walked over to the Millennium and walked back with Russell O'Brien in time to drop both the children off at the same time? Because they did arrive at the same time. Because what a coincidence if Jerry is in the ocean and he suddenly 20 minutes later appears at the kids club with Russell O'Brien at the same time, even though Russell O'Brien was over at the Millennium. It just doesn't fit. And so you can see they both arrived at 9:30. And Madeline wasn't signed out that day, at lunchtime. But Kate signed. Oh no, that's the twins. Yeah, it starts to get confusing. But anyway, that's why I did the graphic, to help me remember everything about each day. And so they both arrived at the kids club at 9:30. So instead of dropping Maddie off 10 minutes after dropping off the twins, did he go to the Millennium to meet with Russell, and they walked together to arrive at the creche at the same time. And you can see here, the millennium is over here, and, well, you can go back and see it. So is it possible that when they arrived, they both signed the register? And this is under the circumstances of keeping in mind that all the nannies described a child that was shy and timid, just like Russell O'Brien's daughter. So is it possible that when they arrived, they both signed the register, but only Russell's daughter went in? And Jerry walked in with her, making it appear that the child that just entered was his child. So if this is the case and Madeline wasn't around, they arrived there, they both signed the register, but Russell sends in his daughter. Normal, everything's fine. And Jerry walks in and starts chatting with the nannies. Now, that's not specific to say that's what he, this is contrived, but the fact is that the nannies the following week would say, yeah, I saw Jerry, and I saw him with Madeline, because she looked similar to Madeline. So can you see where I'm going here? That it is very, very possible that this is how they achieved it, and that you can work through it on a lot of the other days too. This isn't just a one-off. So I absolutely believe in the fact that they disappeared and was seen at the millennium and came back with Russell tells me this is so possible, so possible. And it was only in my mind that I was lucky to remember that comment from Diane. I mean, if I didn't remember that comment, I wouldn't have that knowledge. So this is why when you can read statements, you can read files, but files in themselves really don't mean a lot. You have to get the files and compare, and only then can you start to look at the different things that, whether something confirms it or whether it's a discrepancy. So yeah, we'll deal with the discrepancies another time. And they presume the child that they saw him with was Maddie. And again, I've used this picture before. Is it possible that she was mistaken for Maddie? These were on the other one. This is just, I use these for this particular one because it's associated with this separate. Now here is I went one step further after doing the CRECHE records and started to indicate all the questions about each one. It's all very confusing, but it's there. If you want, you can look at it, you can understand it or not understand it. Just take my, I believe in everything I did. But if you want to question it, by all means, go ahead. And yeah, I'm not going to go into that detail because basically it is very basic that they arrived at the same time, or they arrived at the same time to pick up, and of course Russell's daughter would be rushing over, and maybe Jerry came in. He wanted the nannies to be able to see him there, and knew that it would be very easy for people to look at Russell O'Brien's daughter and think it was Maddie. I think it was a very clever and cunning. But the fact that they went to the millennium and Russell walked with them, just for me is kind of not proof, but really There are so many discrepancies regarding CRECHE records, and it seems the PJ have held back on info on the days that I have seen questionable issues, which I pointed out. And I'm going to go past all these because you can look at them individually on the if this was what happened, it was a very cunning plan. But that's not all. Now, further reasons to believe the PJ knew something that happened during the week. This is a kind of a little add-on. We've done the CRECHE deceit. This is a little add-on because there are other issues that made me believe that the Portuguese police knew something was happening during the week. And these are a couple of the reasons. Now, just before releasing the files in July, the following July, the prosecutor applied to the court to get the details contained in the deleted text messages. Now, the point is, these deleted text messages started arriving around 8 o'clock on Wednesday. Now, why would they be of issue if nothing had happened during the week? If it was still a normal holiday time, there had to be a reason. And it was so important for them to get them that the prosecutor applied to court. It said Supreme Court, but I think somebody from Portugal said to me, no, that's not exactly Supreme Court. So I won't say Supreme Court, but yeah, that was important to them to read those messages. And very sadly, they were the police were suspicious about their role in their daughter's disappearance, and this was on Wednesday. So you see, the police obviously thought something was worth looking at. But he said the phone taps were set up in order to clear or implicate the McCanns, but the texts were not considered as part of the investigation because the judge would not allow it. And one thing I do want to say, and I can't show you proof, but I did read fairly recently that they actually do have the conversations or the texts between the couple during that week. And that is, and you see, this may be part of why they went to court to try and get them, because they wanted to release them, but they're not considered. The judge wouldn't allow it. I don't know. That's just what I read. But it was credible what I read. Yeah, Judge Fernando Ribeiro Cardoso, he actually revealed that there is a continuing investigation looking at abduction, homicide, exposure or abandonment of a child, and concealment of a corpse. They were never cleared. Everybody says, oh, they were cleared. No, they weren't. Once the case was shelved, then they automatically had to not release, but they were no longer considered arguidos. Doesn't mean they were cleared. Jerry denied receiving these messages. Something happened before. Yeah, they wanted to see these messages. Not the police, the prosecutor. But, and here you can see, these are the messages that were received. There's little red dots next to it. And those are the messages that Jerry denies and Kate denies. And why did he deny them? Now also, why did the PJ question Rachel Oldfield on when she supposedly saw Madeline playing tennis? She claims it was Thursday. Madeline, if her group didn't play on Thursday, they played on Tuesday. So the police actually questioned her, and they were quite, they really wanted to know. So we were chatting when Madeline arrived at the tennis lesson. And this is supposedly the Thursday. When was the last time you saw Madeline? And it was when she was having a tennis lesson in the morning. Yeah, about probably between 10:30 and 11 on the morning of the 3rd of May. At the tennis courts? Yes, at the tennis court. Any particular court? It was the one, if you were standing facing the courts, it was the one on the left, I think. So why was he questioning her? Because I don't think he believed her. And rightly so, because that was the, you can see that she described the wrong court. And I think one thing, last but not least, and this really is, the files were released. We have no idea what happened since the files have been released in 2008. We really don't know how the investigation went. Now, that was July of 2008. Has something happened since? Well, Hernan Cavallo, who appears in many of Gonzalo Amoral's videos, made a comment. This is Hernani. You may recognize him from some of the videos. He suggested that the premise of Maddie disappearing on May the 3rd may have changed. So was it new information received after Gonzalo Amoral removal to suggest original details may not be reliable? And then I put where the public prosecutor applied to the court. So was the premise of Maddie disappearing at 5:30 on Thursday now questioned? And it does make one wonder, because he's written there quite plainly. The disappearance took place during the time period between 5:30 and 10 p.m. on the 3rd of May 2007, reads the report from the 4th Brigade of the PJ in Portimao, a premise that is now questioned. I can't go any further on that. I have no knowledge. I've never seen anything. I can't ask him. But because we know the text messages were an issue earlier in the week, because we know that Rachel Oldfields was questioned about seeing Maddie, there is suspicion, and that would have been earlier on Thursday. That does lead me to believe that maybe the police do have an idea that something happened earlier. So, okay, I was hoping to make it to 5:30, but I went a little bit over. But I hope you understand why I am so relieved to have got that information out, which in itself is not overly interesting, but it does prove why, or explain why I believe something happened earlier, along with all the other discrepancies, which, little salty, I will do another live on the discrepancies again. So what's this? Can I talk more about the text she read, or have the person on as a guest, as she said it was a credible, the texts? Somebody who knows about the texts. Are you there, Shirley? Well, actually, I don't need you for that. I'm not sure who you mean. I'm not sure that I could say offhand about anybody who is overly familiar with the texts, or if I'm just not reading what you've said correctly. Information on everything I've discussed, everything I talk about. As I said, when I searched on my computer for CRECHE, I had hundreds of files come up. Hundreds. I don't know how many because I didn't want to count them. And trying to sort through them to get that collection together was just huge. You know, that's why I was fairly silent yesterday doing that. But yeah, I've got pretty much information on absolutely everything. There's only a few things that I don't. The deleted texts. What was it that you actually wanted to know, Michelle? Because I do have the lists of the texts. We don't know who it was. The police probably do, and they probably have the actual, well, at least they wanted the information from it. I know they have something, whether it's those texts or whether it's other texts, messages, calls, or whatever, but they do have something that was, and it quite shocked me, and I would have thought I would have put it in a safe little spot so I could show you, but I didn't. So is there anybody that can see why I believe that something happened earlier? Does that sound credible to you, or do you still feel that you know, it was just, sorry, but it was Thursday, and that's absolutely fine? But I'm curious whether or not it has shown my proof. And when I put on the title of this video, exclusive, is this the proof that Maddie died earlier? I put it in inverted commas because on a title you're limited to what you can put, and I didn't want to have to put is it proof that something happened earlier to Maddie? You know, it just didn't fit. So that's why I put that. So I don't know if she died earlier in the week. I just know that something happened. Well, it appears that something happened, and you have to listen to the discrepancies to understand why I believe that. So okay, is there any, what are we talking about in there? You believe something happened earlier? See, all I'm doing is providing you the information for you to decide for yourself and telling you why I look at that. You know, and again, this doesn't mean that this is what happened. This is just what I believe happened. And then with that little Wednesday thing of remembering Diane, and that would explain why there was that extra length of time between dropping the twins and getting to the crash. That was almost like an arriving at the same time as Russell, who we know was at the Millennium. That was kind of a little confirmation, so to speak, that I was on the right track. And I have to say, I was so proud of that. I'm just, yeah. And this is it. I mean, I'm passionate about what I do.